Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Let's get into today's episode. So we're talking about Ready to Love Reunion Part 2 and what it was given or not given. Now, I'm going to be talking about the highlights for me from this episode. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is that the episode was not really given what it needed to give. In my opinion, there was no need for episode 2 or part 2. They should have just ended it as one part reunion. A lot of the questions that needed to be asked weren't asked. And so for me, that was just a waste of time. Like, they could have condensed everything to a slightly longer part 1. No need for part 2. That's my opinion. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with me. You're allowed to disagree on this channel. Just let me know and we can talk about it in the comment section. Now, let's get into this mess, okay? So, the episode started with Morgan crying. She was saying that Tony is a monster and like he is very cold and the way he treats women, all of that, right? What I needed from that episode was perhaps Tommy going into that room to talk to her and say, okay, you've called this man a monster. What exactly is the problem? Why do you call this man a monster? Let's get to the bottom of it. It feels like she said this name thing and no one is asking her why. Like, I'm not with the name calling. Now, of course, she called Blake a malignant cancer, right? Now, why wasn't she questioned about why she called Blake a malignant cancer? Why wasn't that a topic of conversation on the show? And also, if she's now calling another man a name, calling him a monster, why not get to the root of why is she calling this person a monster? Now, the reason I say that is I know it's so easy for people to be like, okay, Morgan is the problem. She keeps name calling and she may well be the problem. Okay. But we don't know that for sure because she wasn't given the opportunity to speak on why exactly she's calling these people the names she has called them. I don't know about y'all, but I don't go around and I don't know anyone that goes around calling people monsters and names like that without anything actually happening. So for me, I am keen to get to the bottom of it. I hope she has an interview and someone asks her the right questions. Like, let's get into it, Morgan. Why did you call Blake a malignant cancer? Let's get into the nitty gritty. Why did you call this person a monster? Even if you don't feel that way anymore, why did you feel that way in that moment? These are basic questions I feel like a host, anybody needs to ask Morgan. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me in the comment section below. Now, let's get into when Morgan was talking about Marcia's presence would have been a good distraction for Tony. Now, I understood what Morgan was saying in that moment, but calling someone a distraction, especially when they take offense to it, there's no point in continuing to peddle that name. So for instance, if I said to someone, oh, I felt like if you were present, you would have been a good distraction for him. And you're like, oh, I'm not a distraction. Oh, apologies. I'm not trying to say it in that way. I'm just saying that at least he wouldn't be so focused on Lyndon because he would have his own connection with you. That's what she should have done. Instead, she got her back up against the wall, feeling like she was being attacked and just went for it. That was ridiculous. That did not need to happen. The whole back and forth, telling each other to shut the F up, all of that was unnecessary. And all of that for a man that is... I don't even want to call this man names. But this man is clearly not ready to love. This man is clearly a player. This man clearly does not give a flying F about any of you. He just cares about his ego. And so to see these two beautiful women arguing, going back and forth about this man, I did not like it at all. Also, I didn't appreciate the whole... If you see the way Marcia was interacting with Tony, you can tell that she's swept under his web. She's entangled in his web in some way. Like, it was very much given a lot of that, and I wasn't here for it. Now, I apologize if you guys can hear any background noise. The neighbor I don't know what this neighbor has been doing, but it's been making so much noise. He even woke me up from sleep this morning, so I apologize. I really have tried to zone out the noise, but I don't know what's going on over at the other side, but it's super noisy. But let's get back on track, okay? So if I was the one, all I would have said is, oh, I didn't mean it in that way. I was just saying that, at least you would be there. It would be pursuing two connections. I would have cleaned it up. But Morgan was like, no, you interrupt me. I'm choosing violence. And she went for it. So that I did not appreciate. Okay. I also didn't appreciate the fact that the back and forth still continued backstage and telling each other to shut the F up and stuff. I don't think that should have happened at all. Now let's talk about Andre, Morgan, and Cynthia and their connection. Okay. Did you see Cynthia's face when Andre said, I choose you, Jeffrey? So you know how when they were showing the clips back, right? And so Cynthia was pressed. I feel Cynthia wanted Andre, but knew Andre wanted Jeffrey and did not want her as much as he wanted Jeffrey. And so she decided to choose Anthony. I think Anthony was her second choice. I think she actually wanted to be with Andre because it's very much giving pressed. Why, if you don't want to be with this guy and you chose Anthony and you're sure about your connection, why are you finna be looking at your connection saying he chose someone else and be looking pressed? It was very much giving pressed. So for me, I'm like, Now let's talk about Cynthia. Let's talk about Jeffrey and Andre's connection. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Jeffrey, and I understand why you don't, or why most people don't, right? But let's talk about the connection between Andre and Jeffrey for a second. Now, if, for instance, right, think about it. If, for instance, you knew I had 3 children before, you knew I had 3 children, you knew the circumstances surrounding these 3 children, you knew from day one, every time children are brought up, you talk about, oh, you've raised other people's children, you're good with this, you're good with that. All of a sudden, why is that suddenly an issue for you after the fact? It just means you were looking for an excuse. You wanted to stay on the show, finish the show to the end, and you knew what you were going to do. That is how I feel. Okay, because think about it. She's been so open about it from day one. Everyone knows about her kids. She talks about her kids all the time. Like, if you're watching the show, you're like, girl, do you have anything else to talk about? All she talks about, for the most part, are those kids. So you cannot tell me you weren't aware of it. And she's been very, very vocal about the fact that the children are not in the fathers are not in their children's lives. Now, here's the thing. I know people say, oh, women stop men from seeing their kids, or some women stop men from seeing their kids, right? Let me say this. If anyone tries to stop me from seeing my children, I will do whatever it takes to see my children. I will go to court if I have to see my children. If I have to borrow money from everyone that I know to get enough money for lawyers to see the children, I will do that. If I have to represent myself in court to beg to see my children, I will do that. So it is unacceptable for anyone to say, because of somebody, they are unable to see their children. Unless this person kidnapped the kids and took the kids away and you could not find the children. But Jeffrey is on a reality TV show. So I'm sure if you needed to locate her, you will absolutely be able to locate her. So I don't buy the whole, the mother is very difficult, so I don't see my children. Nah, bro. There is no excuse good enough in this world for you not to see your children, if you really wanted to see your children, okay? And so that is how I feel. You're allowed to disagree, but that is how I feel. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought about that. So I don't like the whole making it someone else's fault for not seeing your children. I can't picture it. I've seen some amazing fathers who certain people or certain mothers have tried to stop them from seeing their children, but they fought it. They fought it. There have been moments where even the man was like, okay, give me supervised contact. Let me see my children with other people present, right? For a few months. Show you that I can take care of these children. And then let's gradually move into unsupervised territory. Whatever it takes, bro. So I don't have any sympathy for that. I'm like, all I'm hearing is excuses and I ain't with it. That's how I feel. Okay? If you're still listening, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's continue this conversation, okay? Now, one thing I have to go back to is the arguments or the back and forth between Morgan and Marcia. Now, calling someone sweetheart and saying, sweetheart, what's up? That is a trigger word if we ain't cool like that. You've done something to really upset me. And then you're saying, sweetheart, don't call me your sweetheart. I ain't your sweetheart. You know that's not an endearing term. You know that's not something where it's like, oh, hey, sweetie. Like, no, bro. Don't call me that. I'm your sweetheart. So it's like you're choosing to be aggressive, but passively aggressive by calling you sweetheart. So you can be like, oh, well, all I did was call her sweetheart. Why is she upset? Nah, bro. What's good? That's the start of an argument, my sister. Don't do it. Now let's talk about Tony. I have a lot of words for Tony, honey, but I will try to pace myself and I will try not to get pissed off with this man, in my opinion, right? So from what we see about Tony, let's talk about Tony and Natasha for a second. So Tony starts saying, oh, we had a great time together. After she left the process, it wasn't that deep between himself and Morgan. Yeah, right? Okay, so he said that. Now, Natasha said something that really got me. I don't know if you guys picked up on it. She said, you asked me if I wanted to leave the show, if I wanted you to leave the show, and I said no. And I'm like, so when he was asked about whether he said that, he was then trying to beat around the bush, and act like he didn't say that, or he doesn't remember that. I'm like, my guy. And then proceeds to say either way he wouldn't have left. And I'm like, you see, this is why everyone is saying that you're out here playing the game. Because seriously, you're out here playing the game. First things first, I don't know why people don't give him enough trouble for actually having an entanglement with Natasha. You're on a show to find love, okay? Someone leaves on the first day, you contact them, you do stuff with them whilst you're getting to know the other ladies. That is just all the way off. You're either here for the show or you're not. Why couldn't you be patient enough to explore your connections with people on the show? And then after you leave the show, if you don't find someone, then reach back out to her. I'm just not understanding why people are just like, tiptoeing around the fact that he decided to go and smash Natasha when he didn't have to. Okay? So I don't understand why people seem to be giving him this grace that they're not giving other people. Like, I don't appreciate that. I don't think that's fair. Because last season, when things came out about people smashing other people outside of the show, people weren't cool with that. There were a lot of commentary about that. But now it seems like a lot of the commentary about Tony, they're sort of blaming Morgan and sort of going in on Morgan, but not equally going in on Tony. Let's have equal smoke for all the participants. That's my opinion, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys picked up on something, right? Where Morgan said Tony is a manipulator. He's like, I don't know if he knows, but he is a manipulator. And from what we see on the show, completely agree. Okay? How is it that the day Marcia left, Tony picks up the phone to call Morgan and he's like, Lyndon, she needs to get rid of Lyndon immediately. I'm like, bro, when you had Marcia on the show, you were cool with exploring other connections. You were cool with all of that. But suddenly, Marcia leaves and you want Lyndon to leave immediately. That is manipulation. That is you trying to control the situation. That is you. It's an ego thing. And it's funny how Morgan said Tony has an ego. And pretty much everyone on the couch was agreeing that Tony has an ego. Even Marcia said it. Having an ego as big as the size of the room, that is a problem. That is an ego that is unchecked. So like, we need to call all of that out and stop giving Tony the grace we're not giving Morgan and Marcia, for instance. Okay? So now let's talk about Marcia and Tony. So Tony is like, Marcia hasn't allowed me to take her on a date yet, but we do hang out and, grab a drink here and chill and all of that. And I'm like, completely. I figured, because that explains the body language. You guys are too chimey. She's there, also almost like validating and supporting whatever Tony is saying. It's like she's this like backup dancer where Tony sings a tune and he's like, oh, yes. Marcia was very much giving his backup. Was very much giving his advocate, actually. Just a little bit more on the sly side compared to Susu. But that's what it was given. And I absolutely did not appreciate that. So when Marcia was like, oh yeah, we meet up for pina coladas, I'm like, that is that. That explains it. The chiminess, the unnecessary closeness, Tony says something and then you jump on it and like, yeah, and try to like, oh, yeah. Back him up. No, bro. Marcia, take it from me. Tony is not the person you should be doing that for. Okay? Don't get caught in his web. Run for your life. Okay? All right. Now let's move on to Cynthia and Anthony. Now, the first thing I noticed was their body language was so off. Let's talk about Cynthia's body language for a second, okay? Her back was completely turned away from Anthony. It's like she looks disinterested. She looks like she wasn't really into that connection. She was completely off. She was giving, my back is turned to you. I'm not interested in you. And I already knew, I'm like, this ain't gonna work. Something ain't right. Something is not working in the milk. Like something is off. I just picked up on that, right? Now let's talk about this for a sec. So Cynthia said that she felt like there were some things that happened and she did not handle Anthony correctly. Anthony is such a wonderful man, but she didn't handle Anthony correctly. Now, there are two things I want to say about this. One, their body language and the way they were speaking, Anthony was very much resting in his feminine energy and Cynthia was resting in her masculine energy. Now, I wonder if that is something that Cynthia does not appreciate, because I'll explain this in a moment. There's some women who rest in their masculinity most times. However, they tend to date more masculine men who then get them to a point where they become, I don't know how to explain it. They decide, let's put it that way, to rest in their femininity. So for instance, if we think about Cynthia's ex or baby daddy, right? That man comes across as a very masculine man. That man comes across as he rests in his masculine energy, right? When you see Cynthia around him, it looks like Cynthia rests in her feminine energy, right? So I feel like because of who Anthony is, and Anthony generally rests in his feminine energy, that dynamic is not working for Cynthia. It's just not working. So that's what I think is the issue. Cynthia probably feels like, Anthony, I need you to be more masculine. I feel like that's a lot of what that is. And she's not able to receive love from, in quote, a feminine man. Okay? That's one angle. The second angle is, I think she very much downplayed her connection or her feelings for Andre. I think she really wished Andre picked her. I think she really liked Andre and wanted Andre to pick her. But she knew Andre wasn't going to pick her. And so she picked the next available option. Okay? That's what I think. And now, if we think about Andre is more masculine. She probably thinks will be a better fit than myself and or herself and Anthony, right? So that's what it was given. And so her excuse of saying she needed to go and work on herself to be better for him is all lies, in my opinion. I completely don't believe her. I completely don't trust what she's saying. She is saying something, but her body language is saying another. Okay. And most times your body language is the truth. You're using your words to mask what it is that you truly feel. So there is that, right? And to a huge extent, I feel that Cynthia does not want to be with Anthony. She does not want to be with that man. Her body language completely says it. She does not want to be with that man. It was very much given, when you break up with a guy and say, oh, it's not you. You're such a lovely guy. You're such a beautiful guy. It's me. It's not you. It's me. That's what it's given. So she ain't never gonna come back. That's just the truth, guys. Now let's move on to Mercedes and Mark Anthony. So I love how cute they are. You guys know from the first time I covered their episode where they met and like were talking and stuff, I always felt like they were so good together and they should end up together, right? Now, of course, they both don't want something serious, so I think that dynamic works. It was the way they were giggling and arms around each other and the peck on the cheek, all of that. I wish Tommy had asked if they were still together, but he did not ask that. But I definitely think they are actually very much together. It could be friends with benefits, but they are doing something. Let's just put it that way. Now, you know what was the funniest part of the whole reunion? The clips at the end. The clips at the end were the most interesting part of the show. I'm like, why didn't we get that on the show? Like, can we give a little sprinkle of entertainment on the show that isn't all these like kissing and all these things? Like, give a little bit of that. Like, why didn't you guys show some of that on the show? And I thought like the whole thing was just hilarious. That was the best part of the reunion for me. I thoroughly enjoyed that part of it. Anyways, we've come to the end of Ready to Love reunion. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this reunion part 2. Give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe and tap that bell for notifications so you know every single time that I post. I will see you guys later, and hopefully this whole works that is being done next door would have stopped because this is a mess. I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, take care. Bye.